Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is February 19th, 2026. I am James Jones, and I'm joined today by Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Good evening.
Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
And that's it. This is episode 964, and if you are not hearing the voice of John... Well, I mean, if you are hearing the voice of John Lindemann, seek professional help, because it is not in this audio.
Or look for the other recording, not recording, but
true.
audio device
Maybe
that might be playing somewhere. Do not
You've
try
got
to
another
listen to
episode.
two RFNs at the same time. We do not recommend
No, do it. I want to see what happens. Put one in your left ear and one in your right. Let's do it. John is out this week. This was a last minute thing. He texted me today and said, "Hey, I'm gonna quote him exactly. He apologized, which immediately disarmed me. I'm going to have to skip tonight, unfortunately. But holy crap, Xeno X2 Switch Edition. Let's talk about it. So, because we're not going to do our top 5 this week because John's not here. We're going to talk about the Xenoblade X Switch 2. God, that's really hard to say. So this is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Switch 2 Edition?
It's
Yes.
a double edition, yeah.
It is.
Oh my god! Oh my god! This isn't a.
Well, at
This
least,
is a problem that could have easily been avoided.
This leaves the door open for a Switch 2 edition, Definitive Edition.
Yeah,
because,
sure.
you
You
know,
get a triple edition.
Can they not have collapsed it to, like, you know, Switch 2
Definitive
Edition or something? I don't
But
know.
but see that implies that there is a Switch 2 undefinitive edition.
I know it does, but it's just it's not nice to have the double
How about
edition.
just for Switch 2?
But there was never any other way they were going to do it at the same time, because we know what they're like. They've only got more sort of, you know, rigid in, like, it doesn't matter how redundant it is. We're going to say, you know, the Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Switch 2 Edition game.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
We're going to say the game, you know, the Super Mario Brothers Wonder plus meet up at whatever Bell Park game. You know, they've got to be so specific and rigid about everything. It was the only way it was ever going to go.
I was so mad. Like, I'm just like, so I want to be clear. I'm at the office today. I'm usually at the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm at the office today. And I get this text from John. I'm sitting in a window, like a bay window, just trying to go through a bunch of output garbo from an AI. And I get this text from John, and I'm like, what? Xenoblade, what? So I pull up my phone, start looking at it, and I'm like, son of a bitch. They fucking did it. Now, am I going to play Xenoblade Chronicles X anytime soon? No. Why? Because I put 163 hours into it. I'm good. That's my second time with this game. I'm good. You know how many quests are left to be done in that game? None. The answer is none. There are none quests left in that game. I have done them all. That is just a completely outrageous thing to have accomplished in that game, because there's no reason to. And also, there's no quest list. It's not like Zelda where you can go, oh, I'm missing that one. What is it? No, you got to go through the goddamn wiki that's curated by fans and just go like, have I done that quest? No. Have I done that quest? Yes. There's not like a checklist you can work off. You have to go like, here's how you trigger that quest. Can I trigger it? No, I must have already done it. Cool. The game is not built for completionists. They do not want you to engage it as such. And I did anyway, which is what makes Chapter 13 so fucking galling. I actually am not a Chapter 13 truther, but it does make Chapter 13 a little bit galling. So I have bought this thing anyway. This is not a thing I can explain. I cannot tell you.
It's not going away, is it? At the same time, it's $5 US, £4 and 19 pence, I believe, in the UK.
Why? Just round.
You don't leave the 19p on the table, James. Everyone knows that. So on the one hand, I was like, well, virtually no chance I won't get it at some point, right? Because, again, I don't think I put in as much time as you, James, but I put in a lot of time. I did see.
I hope you didn't.
I got through, the extra chapters. I did a lot of quests. Yeah, there's some quests left to be done again. I'm sure more than what was on your file, but still, enormous amount of time spent. But yes, I haven't played it twice already, with the Wii U game as well. Let's not forget. But I would very much like to see it, in the higher resolution and the higher frame rates and all that. Just see that world again. But we did talk about this when we had the email about, okay, so do you start making decisions a little bit differently, because it's like, well, do you wait for a hypothetical, right. And this is the second time this year now that we've had out of nowhere, very sudden drop of a Switch 2 edition for a game roughly 1 year after it came out. And so, we've talked about it a little bit. For me, it did only come out a year ago. I did play it very thoroughly, so I would have been more in the market for something like perhaps Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or perhaps even the definitive edition of the first game. Even because it wasn't like that higher resolution, was it? The definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles.
No, it's quite muddy looking.
Yeah, and I mean, there's certain things that I assume are not going to be changed by, just using the additional power of the Switch 2 hardware to, increase things like resolution and frame rate, because some of them are a matter of game logic, right? Like, for instance, with the Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one, did it still kind of have like the quite drastic pop in on like the grass, just because it was kind of just baked into the game logic? So it would have been presumably a more substantial kind of, lift to kind of rework how all of that stuff works than was probably budgeted for, with that particular project, and would certainly be budgeted for when you're doing like a Switch 2 edition of these things. Because I've already seen some, people sort of say, things still pop in like as
they're
shocking in New LA and whatnot, for instance, in the Switch 2 edition of Xenoblade X. And it's like, that I assume it's a similar sort of thing at work there to when they did the definitive edition of the first game.
But the reality of the situation is there's so much shit going on in that game. It's kind of inevitable anyway. Like, even the Zelda Switch 2 editions, because I've poked at them a little bit, they have pop-in as well. Like, it's just a function of this is what's here, and like it is what it is. I think Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition's issue is that it's still baked a little bit on the original game.
Yeah, the Wii game. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so the assets themselves are kind of muddy. And then if you were to up them to 4K, I suspect they would get very muddy.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't have to be 4K. It would be nice if portable resolutions would get the bump. And that was the other thing, right?
That's fair.
Xenoblade X was pretty damn good in portable mode relative to all the other Xenoblades that had been on Switch. Now, you're getting a further resolution bump for the bigger screen of Switch 2 in portable mode and the 60 frames. So, that's a significant sort of bump. But again, just Xenoblade X kind of needed it the least, but it was logical that it might be in the pipeline just because it was the one that came out closest to the system, right? So they may have already been thinking about it. They may already have been kind of laying the groundwork.
It was
for
like what,
this happening.
4 weeks?
It was March, and then the system was June, right? So it was like 2.5 months or something, 2 months plus, but it was close, certainly compared to any of the other projects. And again, similar time frame, right, with the DK game, with the Returns HD, like the new system is on the horizon, and that when it originally came out, and then a year later we get this, Switch 2 performance pack.
And I poked at it on Switch 2 when it came out, because it did get some sort of like free benefits on Switch 2.
The passive stuff, like where it's just, I think the biggest thing there was the dynamic resolution element, right? Yes. Where the game would scale the resolution down dynamically based on what's going on, at that point on screen. In order to maintain performance. And of course, when you have that extra hardware, just kind of power just sitting there, we are playing it on Switch 2, it doesn't have to do that with the same kind of frequency.
Yes. I I really liked playing it on Switch 2, even though I'd already beaten the game at that point. Like, I'd already set it down. It dragged me back into online mode for a little while. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet. I bought it on my phone. It downloaded before I got home. But I just haven't had a chance to get in there and play with it yet. But I've seen some stuff. Like, it's there, but a lot of times how the shots in the game are set up, so like when the characters are standing around talking, it's not usually zoomed in on their faces because they knew. Like, they knew back on the Wii U that the resolution was a little dodgy. And so the shots are often from a longer angle so that the details on characters' faces being a little muddy don't really matter. Now they're not. So when you do get close-ups of Elma looking sad, or Elma looking pensive, or Elma looking concerned, the three emotions Elma is capable of, you do get a little bit more in there. But like even the shots of Lynn when she's making jokes about cooking Tatsu, even those are still at a little bit of a distance. They're still like, 3 feet. The camera's like 3 feet away. It's not like an extreme close-up of her face. So it's, when they made this game, they were aware of the resolution weaknesses and attempted to evade them as best as possible. So I think the performance in the flying scale is probably the big thing because that thing performed like dog shit.
Yeah, we talked about it. There was some overlap with the Master Cycle concept.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of like, this is really straining how, the world, the loads things in here. It was not really meant to be it wasn't constructed with the idea of traversing it at this speed in mind. But, I would assume this would help.
Yeah. And I mean, the trailer they released for this, they put it in there. Like they expressly showed a shot of that scale to be like, no, we know, we're aware. So I'm gonna poke at it a little bit, but like it's not gonna make me replay the game. Now, if they did a definitive edition or a Switch 2, I guess it could be both because there's never been a definitive edition of Xenoblade 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Of all of the games that needs it, 2 needs it the most. Like it would most benefit
from a technical point of view. I mean, I assume it did get a little bit better with like some because I mean, I played 2.
I need to go
when it was immediately out, right? Like it was,
right.
It launched. We both played it, and I have not been back to it other than to play Torna, which is different, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
I did everything, so I got to see a little bit of that first big patch, but like, ultimately, no, I didn't go back till Torna. The one that is interesting to me is there is a link attack that you can do, a blade link, I think is what they call it.
Right, yeah.
That you can only do very late in the game because of a story thing. That is notorious for absolutely destroying the resolution like
again,
nothing else in the game.
Dynamic resolution was a big crutch with that game, and I mean, it went way down.
Yeah, that attack in particular, I will just say, it involves multiple blades attacking at one time. And as a consequence, it like the chain attacks already cause the dynamic resolution to go off. So you can imagine when they've doubled the number of effect sources, what happens. And it's like, if you played that on handheld, which I did once, I wanted to see that combo on handheld once. It literally is indecipherable what is happening.
Well,
cannot tell.
And obviously, those sorts of things, where those like attack, where you kind of, you had to kind of burst like different elemental like barrier combos and stuff, didn't you?
Yeah,
So you kind of had to build up to it, and that you lay in the dominoes, and then eventually you can sort of let it go, and it's this big attack and all that. But portable mode in general was really quite soft. And bear in mind, that was on the first Switch, so that wasn't even the OLED model with the bigger screen that kind of showed up a bit more. So in terms of for anybody that might be coming to 2 later, than we did, it would benefit a lot from another pass in that sense specifically. I mean, I would say, like I said, for me, I'm more interested in going back to 1 or 3, from a replay point of view. And therefore, it would be nice if they updated one of those. But in terms of that was undoubtedly, it was an early game, right? It was within, whatever
first
it
few
was,
months.
8 months plus of the system coming out, and there's all sorts of behind the scenes stuff seemingly about how they weren't exactly sure what the target was hardware wise, and that didn't help matters. But basically, it would benefit from another sort of pass in that regard. And of course, commercially, right, presumably, as a function to some extent of when it released, it's the best selling one.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that argument as well.
I think the interesting thing about that one would be if you sold a definitive edition, do you bundle Torna with it? I think you have to. But then you have the question of, okay, so let's say I want to buy an upgrade. Do they have to sell 2 different upgrade packs? Do they have to sell an upgrade pack for people who have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but don't have Torna the Golden Country?
Yeah, well, there's obviously this is the thing, isn't it? Right, there's one of the things that's kind of might be a bit confusing for people, with this current situation of the variety of things that the Switch 2 upgrades represent. Right, like for instance, this is a paid upgrade for a modest fee, but it is a fee that doesn't have any new content in it, right? Whereas like that DK upgrade, the DKC Returns HD, does have some new content sort of, in that you get Dixie Kong coming in from Tropical Freeze and the new turbo mode for the time attack thing.
Right.
And was not paid at all.
Correct.
Which is like kind of contradictory. But I think if in what you're describing with Xenoblade 2 might be most analogous to what's happened with Skyrim. So with Skyrim, the way that they kind of approach that with the Switch 2 upgrade, which recently got a patch to address the fact that it had very prominent lag. Apparently input lag was a real issue, and they did kind of a hot fix for that, but it didn't really properly fix it. Now it sounds like they've actually, sort of really got to grips with it, and also gone for explicit sort of performance and visual quality modes that are separate, with 60 frames per second being the target for the performance mode, and then a locked 30 being the target for the sort of visual fidelity kind of mode or whatever. But the way they approached that was basically, you had Skyrim on Switch. Latterly, there was an upgrade for that was like the anniversary edition upgrade or whatever. And basically said, if you had someone that had upgraded to the anniversary edition, well, that means you don't have to pay for the Switch 2 upgrade. But if you hadn't, well, then, you would have to get that. You would have to kind of upgrade your copy of Skyrim to the sort of more premium one in order to get that. I think that's how it worked anyway.
Let me throw an extra monkey wrench.
They could do it that way. They could basically say, now, if you've bought Torna, you get it for free. Otherwise, buy Torna.
Well, all right. Well, let me throw another monkey wrench into that. What if you only bought Torna? Because you could do that.
Yeah, now you have to buy the rest of the game. You have to buy the base game. Yeah. No, because Torna was literally in a box by itself, was it? On a card and everything.
Yeah.
Like, you could buy it as DLC and play it as DLC, or you could just buy it as its own game. What an insane SKU problem they've created for themselves. Oh, I love it. I love this. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, they might have to release like 5 different patches that you can buy. Oh, it's going to be so confusing. I would pay $5 to replay Zen. I paid $5 to not replay Xenoblade Chronicles X. So yeah, I definitely pay $5 to replay Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a game I haven't played in approaching 10 years. Like, I could do that. I could, like, honestly, I paid the $5 for X, not because I'm going to replay it anytime soon, and it's not like I wouldn't have been able to buy it in the future. It was just me going like, hey, I really enjoyed the amount of time I had with X. I want the people who made this game to get credit for another sale. Here's $5. I spent more on breakfast this morning. Here's $5. If it was 10, we'd be, it's that whole like, well, $5 is $5, but $10 is like $20 kind of shit. $10 feels like it's so much more. It's like, no, it's 1.5 of your breakfast this morning, idiot. It's fine.
And that's in line with the Animal Crossing kind of upgrade thing, which is, kind of interesting because, of course, like there was a big update for Animal Crossing that wasn't like paid, but it happened alongside the performance bump that was paid, right? So again,
it's so weird.
The vast sort of array of sort of contingencies, different combinations of things that have comprised these updates, does kind of make it probably a little bit cloudy. Anybody needs to kind of investigate whether what's exactly in these before kind of putting their money down, I guess, to be sure. But of course, like the ones that have like the significant expansion tend to have almost like this like split box art thing for like the new version of the game, like we've seen that with the upcoming Super Mario Brothers Wonder and with the Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby, right, had a similar thing. So like that's the most obvious thing, but of course a lot of the time you're not necessarily even going to be buying the box copy, are you? So
right. They should add a little bit of content in a Xenoblade 2.1. And by a little bit of content, it should be an idle game, not IDOL, IDLE, where it's just you raise turtles. That's it. That's all I want. I want a digital pet of the turtle who is constantly trying to escape the two people who are taking care of it. This is probably the best running joke in the game. No, it's definitely the best running joke in the game. Imagine you are raising a turtle so poorly, a very small turtle, mind, that for its own self-preservation, it is trying to find its way into the hands of other people. It's like, turtles, you don't usually think of taking the initiative, but that's just what Thunderbolt Zeke is all about. He's about taking action. He's a man of action, a very stupid man of action. God, I just want them to remake the game from his perspective. That's it. Just remake the game from his idiot perspective. That'd be perfect. That wasn't the only thing that came out today, though. That was not the only thing, because Nintendo released, let me get the exact wording. This also was part of the text conversation with John. Hello Mario, which we've talked about. It's Hello Mario ! For Nintendo Switch. And I sent it to John because I was like, damn, this is I found out about Xenoblade Chronicles X. And he responds, literally made to distract a child in the backseat of the car, quote, shut up, kid, and play with Mario's face. And I told him I look forward to his impressions. Well, I'm the one who downloaded it. And I've only poked at it a little bit, pun not intended. And he's not wrong. I mean, this is a $0 product that if you played Mario 64 or the Mario Party, you more or less know what we're talking about here. Mario's face is on there and you get to like move it around and stretch it and do all kinds of stuff. You could put stamps on him. You could like change the background. And I think I've just given you the entire feature list of the product. Make silly vases. Invite Mario to play peekaboo by tapping in the leftmost icon, the question mark block. Boo may even make a guest appearance. Built-in breaks. Good night, Mario. Mario gets tuckered out after playing for a while and will fall fast asleep. At that point, no amount of poking can wake him up. This is a great opportunity to take a break and helps parents limit their child's screen time. If you want to keep the fun going, you can turn off this feature by tapping the gear icon in the top right corner when the application starts. Play offline. There is no need to be connected to the internet to play this application. After you download it, you're good to go. What? I mean, what would it do online? Nintendo! Operation is not guaranteed for all devices that meet the operating conditions. It may not work properly depending on the device-specific performance specifications of device-specific application uses and conditions. What? So, yeah, this is basically like stretch Mario's face around. You can poke him. You can play peekaboo. As John said, it is a game for literal babies, and you can prove this because in the screenshots that they put on the eShop listing, they actually show the console, and it's a Switch 1, not a Switch 2, which is very rare. And also, it's literally the a stock image of a baby's hand pulling on Mario's mustache. And then a stock image of an adult's hand poking on his ear, because you're playing it together, you see, with your toddler. This might be the first time there's been an explicit photograph of a toddler's hand on Nintendo.com. So that's fun and interesting for those of you who find that kind of information fun and interesting. But yeah, they released this. They talked about it when they talked about all the Mario stuff they have coming. But them talking about it versus it being a thing that I'm looking at on my Switch are very different. And now I'm living in the second one of those realities and not the first. So, yeah, Game of the Year 2026, obviously. Like, you can stretch Mario's face and put stuff on him at 10 out of 10, no notes. But yeah, I don't know what this is for. Like, obviously the goal is to appeal to small children.
Well, it's part of the whole My Mario line, right?
Yes.
So they've been available in Japan for a little bit, but those wooden blocks that are amiibo as well, you know, those the wooden block characters and various like toys for, you know, for infants and whatnot. It's just it's rather than being a physical one that you have to actually buy, like, it's just a software toy, in that sort of vein, I think.
Yeah, it is correct, and it's just I'm not sure how long this is going to actually hold the target demographics' attention, like minutes, and so I don't know that it's going to achieve the objective they've set out for it as part of the My Mario catalog of attempting to create engagement points with children who are not playing Mario games. You know, if you were to look at what kids play these days, they're playing fucking Roblox. They're playing the game that literally has indentured servitude in it in the form of child labor. Indentured child labor. But hey, you know, sometimes you gotta learn the value of hard work. And My Mario is not going to teach you that with your fucking amiibo blocks. Yeah, it came out. I'm baffled. It's going to show up on my year in review now. That's fun. It's going to show up on there. It's like 2 minutes, but it's going to be there. That's going to be, because I'm going to see it. I'm going to have forgotten about it and go, what the fuck was that? And then I have to go back and look it up and go, oh, is that fuck ass Mario stretch his face shit? But yeah, it's so weird. It's such a, it had to be free. Like, you could not morally charge money for that thing, but it is, I don't see its appeal even to its target demo beyond a couple of minutes. And maybe because the barrier to entry is so low, a couple of minutes is enough, but I struggle to see how it will fulfill their stated goal of it in creating engagement with the brand in such a very short period of time. So, big question marks is my statement on that. But hey, it's out. Nintendo released 2 things today of equal size in every way, without a schedule. So, neat, I guess. Also, I got the most offensive email I've ever received from Nintendo, which is saying a lot because they've sent me a lot of shit over the years. And this is them thinking that I would be interested in, what was that game that came out? The Tokyo game.
Tokyo Scramble.
The one, yeah, they sent me an email telling me that, hey, Tokyo Scramble's out now, you should take a look. And the idea that I'd want to play that, I'm offended. I'm offended that they're right, but I'm also offended that they would say it. This is textbook Marge Simpson. We shouldn't say it.
By giving them all your data for that year in review that you couldn't use after all, you gave them also the ability to see into your soul, and the fact that you would enjoy or at least play Tokyo Scramble. Enjoy, I don't know, but play it.
At least be amused by.
Yes.
It's It's out. You can go scramble your Tokyos, I guess. But yeah, I got that email and I'm like, all right, first off, fuck you. That's not nice. You don't tell that. You don't tell someone, I think you'd enjoy this game. That's mean. That's mean. But secondly, it's out. You can go play it, I suppose, ? Also, Arcade Archives. Did you see what it was this week?
I only saw people complaining about it, so I just I didn't pay attention to it. But it's some sort of make your own shooter kind of thing.
No. That's Console Archives.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
This is Arcade.
Yeah, okay. It's a game. It's a shooter where you're in a paddle boat.
It's Adventure Canoe.
Adventure Canoe.
God.
So there's this guy I follow on Blue Sky who basically finds something to enjoy about every Arcade Archive games, even the ones that, he's like, no, wait. Like, there's a reason why you would want Space Invaders, despite the fact that it's in collections, etc. He also found a reason to enjoy this one. So, good news, everyone. They're all good. No matter which Arcade Archive title you buy, you're getting quality.
I want to be clear. I have played Adventure Canoe.
Oh, you have?
It is. So it is a Taito game from the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what that means, this game is not for you. If you know what that means, this game probably also is not for you. But if you're some kind of weird Taito sicko and you hear 1982 Taito, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. If that's you, I guess go with God. But yeah, Adventure Canoe, it's a bit like Tubin, but you're in a canoe, basically.
Okay.
And so it's worse. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That was this week. Console Archives that you mentioned is Denzaemon, which is a shooter maker, but the whole thing's in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
So have fun, I guess. When we say a shooter maker, it's a game maker for making vertical scrolling shooters. You design the sprites and you put them on the thing and you give them different stats and stuff.
Right.
But it is in Japanese. So have fun with that. This is the third Console Archives they've released. They got to this shit so fast. They speedrun to unplayable in English.
Yeah. I'm watching a video of the official Arcade Archives video of Adventure Canoe, and the first thing that the guy in the canoe does is shoot down a pelican.
Yeah.
I don't think that's legal, but okay.
I mean, that pelican's an asshole. Like he knows what he did. Have you seen Little Mermaid? Yeah, fuck him. Fuck him. I don't think Scuttle's technically a pelican. I think he's a seagull, but he's fucking obnoxious as shit. So he knows what he did. If it's not, he'll get the message.
Mm-hmm.
Even Denzaemon, as inscrutable a release as this is, considering if you're not part of the roughly 180 million people who speak Japanese on this planet, and probably less than that because you have to be able to read Japanese. So if you reduce the Japanese children from that 180 million, the 179 million Japanese people who can read Japanese, this game is inscrutable to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
To the remaining billions of people on this planet, this is inscrutable. So that's cool. This is game 3. These fuckers have the entire history of gaming to go to, and they went straight to inscrutable shooter maker. Oh my god, they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on fucking purpose. Like, I refuse this. I know what you're up to. Console Archives. Did you? So Arcade Archives, they call them ACA because "cade" is a separate word from arcade, from R.
Yeah, I think technically, I always found that peculiar, but I think it's meant to be because it's Arcade Classics Archives. But for some reason, like a lot of the time, they just left the classics out, but still use that abbreviation. It was strange, but I think that's where it came from originally.
Well, so for console archives, have you seen what abbreviation they're using?
I have not.
CS.
CSA.
Yeah, see, that is like the quote-unquote logic of, a syllable being a letter, being warranting having an initial, I should say.
So it's anti-soul archives, apparently, because con and soul are separate words. Not S-O-U-L, S-O-L-E. So they do not wish for your shoe to be useful, I guess, or they don't want you to be alone. You can take your pick. What the fuck? Just call it consoles. Oh my god. The hamster, please. Also, you could pay $8 for the opportunity to not understand Tensai. I fucking love it. Anyway, this has been a really long introduction to the show. Hi, hello, welcome. We're 40 minutes into the show, basically. And we haven't introduced a goddamn thing. We fucked around and talked about that text messages from John Lindemann. As we mentioned earlier, we will not be doing our top 5 this week because John is not here. And that's okay. We will do it next week. I'm saying it now to force myself to do it. Here's the extra thing. I said that last week. But I'm putting an extra caveat. This is a blood pact we're all making together. If one of us can't make it next week, we go on without that person, and we get to say what their top 5 was. They will not be consulted on this. We will name it for them. This is now like we're all in this together with a knife to each other's throat kind of thing. You miss it, I'm going to go find some of the most just garbo on the eShop and be like, he loved Monster Academy sexy monster girl feet. I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. Which is almost the name of a real game. It's very close. I just couldn't remember all the words that went with it. It's out there, man. You can find anything on the eShop, anything you want, and you're probably going to regret. You're going to hate yourself. That's what I'm saying. So, be there or be officially made the world's biggest fan of anime girl feet game. I can't remember what it was called. I'll find it. Just gotta go check my wish list, obviously. And we'll go from there. So, we're at 40 minutes. Do we want to do a new business, or do we want to just like take an early break and do new business when we get back? Or do we want to like try to do an email real quick? I don't know. What you got in mind?
Well, we don't have an email picked out, so let's just go with new business, maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be very long. I have not got much to say.
Okay, why don't you do new business, and then we can take a break, and then Guillaume and I can do ours.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've been continuing my run through Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and I thought I was very close to the end, like a couple of days ago, because there was one of those parts that you get in a game where it's like, no, okay, have you done? Are you good? Have you settled up with everybody? Because if you progress, if you go here, you won't be coming back. And I was like, right, so I must be really near the end, right? And then it went on quite a lot longer, and I have reached a second moment where
oh god,
I've been advised that I better be sure that but I think I am incredibly close to the end now for real, but still I prefer to kind of hold over my thoughts on the game when it's actually wrapped up, really. That's going to be the main thing. It's been mostly enjoyable so far, and a good sort of proof of concept, really, for what playing some of these types of games can be like on Switch 2, in terms of, like I said, when it's got such a premium on presentation, on cinematic quality, but at the same time is quite extensive. I mean, not super extensive, not like Xenoblade X kind of scale or whatever, but, quite a long game. So you want to kind of, at once, you want to be able to enjoy the spectacle, but also you don't want to completely lose momentum. by having it take months. This is where the Switch 2's, kind of hybrid nature and all that is really kind of useful to me, because it's the way that I can get through these things in a reasonable amount of time, but still, enjoy the cinematic and sort of spectacular quality. So it's it all kind of encouraging for some of the stuff, that's coming up, like your Resident Evil Requiem to a degree, I would say. It's kind of makes me a little bit more bullish about playing that, although that is different with a horror type thing. I would say it's probably even more important to like get time with that, where you can kind of just play it in front of the TV and kind of shut everything else off if you want the kind of the full atmosphere. And also I don't know how long, that is. Yeah, obviously we what are we, still about a week away from that coming out? So, reviews will shed some light on exactly what the deal is with that. But as a general matter, I think it's, been kind of encouraging stuff, but I'll definitely at some point offer my thoughts on the resolution and all that, because it's a tricky thing, right? Obviously everybody knows, even if you haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII, that this is not the end of the story. But at the same time, presumably, you've got to offer something that's somewhat kind of narratively satisfying as a semi-resolution, right? Because originally Rebirth didn't come out for another 4 years, right? So had to give us that is not an easy balancing act, and I'm really interested to see how they actually kind of try to square that circle or whatever, and then maybe we can think about if it leaves me, wondering about whether to get Rebirth when that comes out. But, that again is something for another day.
I really should just download that demo. Like, I just sit here going like, I think I was just so mad when they're like, we're not going to have time or turn-based battles. I think I just shut my soul off to that thing. And it's like, I should really just look at it. I mean, I don't know. I'm really curious though. Are we actually getting the best way to play with this, where you're not having to wait a million years between? No,
I mean, like 5 months or whatever, like, is like enough time to kind of take a break from it, from the, but then and feel like a certain amount of time's passed, but then come back to it when things presume, because I assume. The way the narrative picks up is probably pretty damn direct. You know what I mean? It's
right.
So, because it is really just one big story. So, I can't imagine, if it had been 4 years between them, like my retention of it and stuff, some of the details and whatnot, it might not be that great. I guess, they probably make a certain amount of allowances for that kind of thing with, let's just go over this again, with some exposition or re-exposition at times. But,
I would agree they should, but I would remind you this is the same company that when they released a Final Fantasy game noted, you have to watch this fucking terrible movie to understand the setup.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to be clear. 1, that movie's awful. 2, it uses different voice actors than the game. 3, that movie's really fucking awful.
I mean, I can recall with the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, which were coming out, once a year, just a year between each installment, right? Like, there's multiple times, I think, in the Two Towers where it felt like they're like, well, let's just restate this. Sauron's here, Saruman's here, and then, it did feel like they were like, well, it was a year ago. Are we sure they're going to remember this? So that's a year, not 4.
Right.
So, I mean, I assume they must make allowances to some degree, but at a certain point, you just got to let it go. You got to get on with it. Otherwise, it's going to be totally clunky, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, knowing the plot of The Lord of the Rings, even having had 4 years between those movies, would have been disorienting. Like, I watched The Two Towers the other day for the first time in a while, which is weird you mentioned that one. And I was like, oh, right, Boromir's dead. It took me a minute. I was like, oh, yeah, he died at the end of the last movie.
It's kind of funny that you would not remember that, because it's, Sean Bean plays him. It's
kind of what he's known for.
He could have died in Two Towers, I guess.
Because he dies right at the end of Fellowship.
Yeah, it's the way. Again, they had a similar problem with those movies, right? How do you get something of a sort of satisfying resolution to something that is really? Because Tolkien didn't even write it really with the idea of it being 3 parts, did he? It was
no.
I think the publisher kind of came up with that idea.
This is getting really long.
Yeah, it might be easier to sort of manufacture and sell as separate volumes, but no. So they had to decide, how do we split this up? And of course, that's really more complicated because the structure of the books is a little bit different in terms of once the Fellowship splits up, you get big chunks where it's just Frodo and Sam. Or, then it's just Aragorn and co, and then we go, shift back in time, and then we go pick back up with Frodo and Sam and stuff like so. But they couldn't really do that. They've got to intercut, all the way along. So, they really had, as it went on, it got more and more complicated. But with the Fellowship, it was pretty natural, I think, of just, the breaking of the Fellowship, which, is, really... with Boromir's passing, is the moment that you kind of finish on. But,
the Battle of Parthgalen and then them putting him on the boat. Now, because Peter Jackson's a fucking coward, he didn't have them fucking break out in song as they put him on a boat, which is a real thing that happens in the book, by the way, and they all know the lyrics.
Oh, there's so many songs.
They sing so many times.
They put, there were more allusions to song in those films than I would have thought, to be honest.
Yes,
you know what I mean? The poems and the songs, it's not as prominent as in the literature. They did try and get more in than I thought, the suits would let them, frankly.
Specifically, though, Aragorn and Legolas literally sing a song back and forth to each other as they put him on the boat to send him down the river. And at which point, I think Gimli at that point is just like, how do you all both know the lyrics to this song is basically what he asks them. And so no, they just wrote it on the fly. They're just that good. They're just that fucking good. They wrote it on the fly as they're mourning someone's death. We didn't get that in the movie. But also I've heard at least one of those actors sing, I'm good. I'm good. Thumbs up. Maybe a strong decision. But 4 years. They did do, I want to say the INTERGRADE thing was actually came somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, the INTERGRADE, right? Which you do have that. So there would still be more for me to when I do
content.
Cross the finish line on this in the next couple of days or whatever. There will actually be a bit more more things to do.
I think that came out 2 years after the first part.
Sure. It would make sense. Or
some bridge content.
Yeah, just spike awareness of it again.
Yeah.
And keep things ticking over. But
there's no way they expected to take this long, though. There's just no way.
Well, yeah, I guess not. Maybe not the full, where it's going to end up as a problem. At least I would have thought going to 27 for the 30th anniversary. I would have thought I'd be shocked if it's, they could get it any sooner than that. And that's a long, 7 years, after the first part. That's a long time. But, when you decide to split it up this way and you knew that there was going to be a console generation transition happening across that as well, because, obviously
because
the first
4 years.
The first one was a really late, PS4 games. The PS4 had been on the market a long time by the time that Remake came out, so you knew that was happening. You had to have some notion that it was going to be a long time, but probably not this long, because at the very least, they wouldn't have known clearly about the pandemic, and that surely would have had some major effect. The first game came out right around that time, didn't it, in 2020? But then obviously the effects of it are just gonna cascade all down next 2 games.
Oh yeah, God! One day though, they're gonna finish this series and they're just gonna look around and go okay, now what? What have we done with our lives? We've put this thing across. It is entirely possible. Well, for for those of you who
just
aren't
like how many Dragon Quests have got remade in the same length of time?
Yeah, I mean, in the past 14 months, we got 4. It's if you count 1 and 2 separately.
The thing with the Dragon Quest thing is that's a different thing, is it? Because that's them sort of vamping, while Dragon Quest 12 seems like it's taking a while to emerge.
In the blender. Yeah. I was thinking more though. Is it possible? Not probable, but possible, that the PS6 would be out before we got the final part of the remake, at which point each one of these would have launched on a different goddamn system. And I think
from recent kind of sentiments, it's sounding less and less likely.
Yeah. So, for those of you who aren't aware, all the fucking AI companies bought up all the memory for the next 2 years. So buying technology is going to be really fucking hard because there's not going to be any NAND available to put in your fucking hardware. And so Sony, in particular, appears to be looking askance at releasing the PS6 on their planned timeline because they won't be able to build them. Hey, if you need some technology, buy it now because it's not going to get cheaper for a while.
Well, I mean, I think the outlook for the next generation of PlayStation and Microsoft is unclear what exactly they.
Well, everything is on Xbox, so they're good.
Well, it's like everything's an Xbox, nothing's an Xbox.
But if you can't produce anything with memory in it, then nothing's an Xbox.
But the rumors around their sort of approach is to make it more like a kind of the next generation Xbox would be more like a PC experience, more like a luxury kind of.
All computers are going to be luxury items.
But the idea that it was actually, what if it was even more expensive than you thought? Because of the supply
but
side
why
shocks.
Just buy a PC?
I know I don't know how strictly accurate any of these sorts of mooted approaches will end up being, and B, goodness knows, if that were the approach, would it find a niche out there in the audience? But even with Sony, it does seem like you would have had to be bracing for a world where a PS6 will be rather expensive. Just look at what a PS5 Pro is, and the fact that you haven't had the usual sort of scenario where the existing platforms, the current platforms, kind of get cheaper. Where that hasn't really happened because of the various.
The original Switch is still its price.
Yeah, no, exactly. Even going that far back, and so you do wonder, just how expensive some of these things are going to be when they eventually arrive. It's almost frightening to contemplate, actually. But I would on this occasion, not a horse, Square Enix and its sort of expeditiousness that I would bet on that often. But in this case, I think they'll get there before PS6 arrives. But for me, I have been kind of having read reviews and stuff. I've been interested in getting Mario Tennis Fever, but I did think, even though these aren't really in any way substitutes for one another, I did think I'd finish off Final Fantasy VII first. So I've not got there at this point, but I think I will quite soon now.
Cool. Why don't we take a break here, and when we come back, Guillaume and I will do our listener mail, and we'll see how we're doing on runtime. Sound good?
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Stay tuned. We are back with more new business, and I'll go next because I bought the fucking thing. We knew I was gonna buy the thing. I bought the Virtual Boy. I did. I bought the whole plastic fucking thing, and it showed up on Monday. Monday? No, yeah, it showed up on Monday. Because this is the episode where I talk about texting John Lindemann. I sent him a picture, and his response was simply, "Cursed image. I have accepted," and I compared it to inviting a vampire into your home. If you don't invite the Virtual Boy in, it can't hurt you. I let it in the door. So let's talk about the hardware a little bit. So it is literally just... So it is the feet. All right, we'll start with the bottom. Work our way from the top. The feet, the stand it sits on, is the same stand as the one that was on the original Virtual Boy. You can swap them. They are the same. Where did they even fucking find the plans for this thing? They're the exact same. So that's odd. And I say they're the exact same. That is not a positive statement. The stand on the original Virtual Boy kind of sucks. And this one sucks the exact same way. But moving on up, it clips to the shell itself. And so I actually, when I got the shell, the instructions are not extant. There's like some pictograms, like a rebus diagram of how you open up the thing, but it never doesn't tell you where to actually push. But the first time I opened it, it resisted me pretty significantly. On subsequent opens, it opens much more easily. But like I could push on the spot and I could kind of feel it moving, but it wasn't opening, and I didn't want to push too hard because I didn't want to break it. So it took me a little while to figure out where to open it. And the place to push is the little rubber things on the back of the Virtual Boy for if you're Virtual Boying too hard and you need rubber bumpers if you bump into things. They're on the original. I don't know why they're there. I legitimately have no clue why they're there. They're to keep you safe from nothing. I think it was there. Honestly, my guess is it was there in case this thing fell over. I don't know. But you push there and eventually it hinges up like a hatchback. And that's where you can drop your Switch or Switch 2 in. That's where the slot's exposed. You drop it in there. And the way that it accommodates both pieces of hardware is in the box, there's a little bracket in the box that comes in. At the very bottom, there's this bracket. And it's got some screw holes. And if you look at the bottom of the unit itself, the plastic case that wraps around the Switch, there's a bracket already installed. It comes installed with the Switch 2 bracket, which I think says a lot. It tells us that they knew the people who bought this are going to be the sickos who bought a Switch 2 already. And so if you want to swap it, you have to unscrew the screws, put the other bracket on, and screw the screws back in. So I haven't put the OLED in there. Greg was asking during the break if I've had a chance to test if the OLED looks different. I haven't. But I could talk a little bit about the experience of using the device now. So once I got it in there and closed the lid, you got to close the lid because that protects the light. I didn't follow the instructions such as they exist. The instructions deal with how to set the thing up. And the way you set the thing up is you launch the app and then you put it in the thing. Do not put it in the thing before you launch the app. And the reason is, well, it should be pretty fucking obvious. On the inside, on the part you put your face into, there's two big glass lenses. And those lenses focus the two images into being one image to create binocular 3D. The problem is, if the game isn't displaying two images and is just displaying one image, it's going to try to binocularize two different things. And your brain is going to hate that. And you are not going to be able to see what you are binocularizing. So if you were trying to navigate the Switch menu with that thing, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to tell what's highlighted. You're not going to be able to tell what you're looking at. It's just going to suck. And so what they tell you to do is launch the thing, put it into the device, close the device, and then start playing it. And at that point, it will be fine. And in fact, when you launch the most of the NSO apps, when you say close, when you're like, I'm going to close it, it'll you get a little like, you sure you want to close? You close it, and then it bounces you back to the home screen. On this one, if you close it, or if you press the home button, there's a little like interregnum screen where it says remove it from the device and press OK. I cannot make it press OK unless I actually touch the screen where the OK button is, which I think is Nintendo's way of confirming you actually took the fucking thing out of the shell. So that's all you could do there. But I, like most people, got this on Monday, and it came out on Tuesday. So I had it for a day and couldn't do anything with it. So, the obvious answer was I'm going to play the Pragmata demo for the 4th time inside the Virtual Boy, a game that is not made to be displayed in binoculized 3D. How did this work? Not very well, obviously. But what was interesting is because it's got that big, thick red filter on it, a big lens filter. Even though the image, like if you take the filter off, because you can't remove it, they showed that in that trailer, because you'll be able to do other colors. If you took the filter off, you still, like, it was still in color. Like it doesn't know it's inside the plastic case. Because that filter is so strong, and it's blocking everything that's not red, and essentially that means that anything that's lit up at all comes through with some shade of red. It actually looked like you were playing Pragmata on a broken Virtual Boy, which I appreciated. I look forward to some absolutely crazy indie dev putting a Virtual Boy mode in their game, and Nintendo being mad about it, so they have to like put it in without saying anything. But in theory, it would work. It would work just fine. I thought it was weird and kind of like instant headache. Instant headache. I cannot describe to you how fast the headache was when I went and tried to play the demo of Pragmata on the Virtual Boy. The headache was so fast. Possible, like, almost as if it time traveled to hit me before I put my face into the unit. It was instantaneous headache inset. So, don't do that. The temptation is real. Don't do it. I was in pain. So what can you do? Well,
it's like there are like those Labo VR like actual games that have it. So you did have alternatives to playing a game that definitely doesn't have a stereoscopic
the Labo
mode.
But here's the thing: the lens configuration is different than the ones for Labo VR.
Oh, so sure. I'm not saying it'd be a perfect fit or it would work particularly well or anything like that. But compared to a game that doesn't account for stereoscopy at all,
explicitly has no concept that this is a thing.
It still sounds like a safe choice. It still sounds like you really wanted to make sure that headache happened. It's like, I've heard a lot of hype about how Virtual Boy gives you headaches, but I'm not leaving anything a chance. I'm going to make it display something it's got no business doing.
I didn't even get out of the first room in the Pragmata demo. I was debilitated. It was amazing. It was like, holy shit, this is dire. Like right out of the gate. Holy hell. I really like that Pragmata demo. Anyway, so I didn't have a ton of time this week to fuck around with it, and I figured we've got time in the future for me to go through the games again, because I dropped 6 right out of the gate: Red Alarm, Galactic Pinball, Golf, Wario Land, Tellero Boxer, and 3D Tetris. I talked about Tellero Boxer a couple months ago.
Well, and there was the Shadow over Innsmouth,
I was gonna get to that one.
Oh, okay,
because that's the one I played. I didn't want to play Tetris. I didn't want to have to pay Alexei Pajitnov. I didn't want to play Golf because it's fucking golf. I own Red Alarm. I've played Red Alarm. Red Alarm is fine. Tellero Boxer is not fine. I played a little bit of Galactic Pinball. I mostly played Galactic Pinball to calibrate the lenses. So when you boot it up the first time, it asks you to calibrate the lenses to like zoom to get the effect right for your eyes. And I kind of fucked it up. And you can get back to that menu. You hold down the start button, it brings up the menu for the Virtual Boy, and then there's another button that lets you adjust the focal point, and that fixes it. And so I used Galactic Pinball to calibrate it because it's got lots of sprites at lots of distances, so it's very obvious if it's wrong. The way that it adjusts for the fact that you might be playing on a Switch 2 versus a Switch, I mean, it knows what you're playing on, obviously. But you can actually shrink the screen. So one of the menu options in there is like make the screen, the portion of the screen you're using, shrink it down a little bit so that it doesn't like go too far. Because right now it actually goes over, like when I launched it, it was too big essentially. So like I was getting cut off on the top and bottom a little bit. So I adjusted that, then I readjusted the focal length, and I was good. You can adjust the brightness on the middle brightness setting with the Switch 2, not even the OLED. It was brighter than the original Virtual Boy. I cannot fathom the need for it to be brighter than that. I don't recommend going full brightness. I certainly don't recommend going full brightness while playing the Pragmata demo. Go full brightness playing the Pragmata demo. Do it. Do it, you coward. But there's a couple options to make adjustments to make it work better. And once I got them set up, it was fine. It was fine. It looked fine. It doesn't detect that it's in the device. You could, in theory, launch these things outside the device, I guess. It would be weird and not look good, but you could do it. So the one I actually spent time though was the Mansion of Innsmouth. Holy shit. I mean, holy shit. Now, is this Quest for Camelot bad? We had the episode a couple weeks ago where named like you have to be Quest of Camelot good for admittance. No, it's not that bad. It's close. It's it at least marks.
With Virtual Boy, there's a little bit more of that beggars can't be choosers scenario going on, because it's like, well, there's not that many games that were ever released for it. So it's kind of,
but this isn't one of them.
Game Boy games, quite a lot of them I hear.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, there's a few. So Mansion of Innsmouth never came out outside of Japan. And it probably shouldn't have come out inside of Japan, having now played it for about 30 minutes. I'm going to describe this game as best I can. There's a maze. You walk around in it. The D-pad buttons move you essentially one step at a time. And so it's one of those games, kind of like, what's a good one? What is the name of Phantasy Star? Mm-hmm. The original ones. Where like what's that adventure game that came out on Game Boy? I'm blanking on its name.
The Sword of Hope?
No. It's point and click adventure.
Shadowgate.
Shadowgate, yeah. It's a little bit Shadowgatey, except it's much more real time. Where like you take a step and it loads the next screen. But the entire game is just hallways. The same hallway forever. There are doors that take you to the same hallway, but a different part of the same hallway. All intersections are doors. There's no intersections that aren't doors. And occasionally you run into enemies and you shoot them. You control your aim with the right stick, and the left stick or the left face buttons make you move. You fire your gun with R and you reload the gun with L. You have to actively reload. It will not automatically reload if you use up all your bullets. Bullets are a finite resource. Enemies are not. And they don't move when you don't move. So if you stand there and you hear them and you start looking around for it, you can freak out. Your goal is to find the key and then find the door to take you to the next floor. That's it. That's the whole game. So you're just walk, screen loads, walk, screen loads, walk, screen loads, turn, screen loads, walk. It's that. That is what this game is. Hear enemy noise. Grrr, aim, R, enemy blow up, resume walk. And eventually the game just gives you the whole map for the area. You can press the start button to make the map come up, but eventually if you walk around an area long enough, you just get the whole map. It's just like, here's the map. And it tells you where the key is and where the exit is. I've made it to level 5. Does this game have in-game saves? No, of course it doesn't have in-game saves. What's wrong with you? You get passcodes, and they're all 4-letter words. Just put 4-letter words you know in there that are vaguely menacing, like Doom! And you'll probably land on a password. Because that's how this game works. Moon or Risk. Like shit like that. It's like, okay, yep, I get it. It's really bad. Like it's it's barely a game, I think, is the issue. Like, I would refer to it as game adjacent. It's got branching endings based on what door you exit from on some of the stages. Cause like, I did the first stage and there's only one path out of the first stage. Then on the second stage, it branches 4 ways. So presumably there's multiple exits you can take from the first stage. I guess. I don't know. It never tells you any of this. So I mean, basically, it's like 16 stages long too, which is a threat. That's an active threat. And then at the end, you just get an ending, and it shows you the whole, like, it's Virtue's Last Reward. It shows you the whole tree of possibility. But yeah, this is dull as dishwater. This is such a boring, nothing happening, why the fuck is it like this kind of game. And I get why it never came out outside Japan. Because 1, Virtual Boy dead. 2, game bad. But like, fuck. What the hell? There are much better games than this that you could be playing. So you can probably skip the Mansion of Innsmouth. It's like a point and click adventure game that isn't, because enemies are attacking you. Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. And of course it's Virtual Boy control, so it feels weird. Because of course it does.
Well, that's supposed to be digital aiming, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, so are they mapping the one D-pad to the second stick?
Yes.
So, I mean, that probably feels natural enough in something like that, where you're aiming, but maybe less so where you're kind of, using the more digital kind of, although it still would be digital,
right?
Really, wouldn't it?
You can go. You can turn to your left, turn to your right, walk forward. Those are your options.
Yeah, but for the actual the enemies, right, that you shoot at, like that's with the other.
Yeah,
that would have been with the other Virtual Boy D-pad, but here it would be on the second analog stick.
It is on the analog stick, which is probably better than the original experience.
Because it's still digital underneath, but it probably feels like natural enough.
It physically feels better.
Whereas, with some of these games, I've got to assume you'd rather have the precision of, like, actually, a second D-pad, or at least, like, face buttons, that kind of thing.
Right.
But we talked about this before.
Face buttons might be in use.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We talked about this before, didn't we? The fact they didn't go with a controller along with the big plastic shell is a little bit peculiar, because it is a weird controller, and it's so weird. You don't really. It depends on the game, I've got to assume, right? Like certain ones is probably not that much of a problem. Like I wouldn't have thought Wario would be that much of a problem.
So is it a problem? No. Does it always feel weird? Are there any games where holding the Virtual Boy controller doesn't feel weird? No.
No, but I mean, in terms of holding a Switch controller instead of the Virtual Boy controller, I've got to assume Wario Land you're not really going to notice, right? Because it's I assume it's just D-pad and buttons, like anything else. Whereas if it's one of these games where the 2 D-pads are kind of more involved on the Virtual Boy controller, like a Telluride Boxer, right? Like it's the 2 hands.
Right.
That would be weird if it's like, okay, so my left hand is the D-pad, but my right hand is a stick. Like
that's going to be weird.
That asymmetry is weird there. So that's what I mean in terms of them not doing a controller. You get these weird things. The only thing I could think of in terms of like the best approximation that you could have is, I suppose naturally enough in a way, the Virtual Boy's successor as a controller, the N64 controller. If you've got the Switch Online N64 controller, the C buttons are, quite a lot like another D-pad. And you still have a B and A there. What you don't have is a select button. So there's still something missing, and I don't know if that's...
And it uses the select to get to the menus.
I don't know. I think, if I'm not mistaken... It's really bloody weird, actually. Yeah, because like when you play the NSO N64 games, with a regular controller. Select is like rewind now that you have that on Switch 2 and, bring up the menu. And yeah, the N64 like Switch Online controller does not have that. There is no select button, but it has a ZR button, a tiny little ZR button that functions as that button. Right. So like it functions as select, even though it's labeled ZR. Weird. But so I don't know what that would do in the Virtual Boy scenario. Would it operate as select or would it operate as what it's labeled as ZR?
That's a good question.
But maybe for some of those games, if it really is that weird, N64 controller could address that. And then in other games, well, it's not going to matter anyway, right? Like, I assume pinball, like you said, like that's going to be fine, right?
Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, this is a bad game. This is a bad game.
The biggest thing I want to kind of pick your brain on, James, with this really, because again, first of all, the nature of the games, right? As you said, better games probably than the Mansion of Innsmouth, but a lot of the games are kind of thin, right? Because it's
they're all thin, yeah.
A launch lineup where I don't know how much anybody had that much confidence in where this thing is going. It's kind of like experiments, tech demo-y things. Again, not that different from the launch lineup of various things we might have seen over the years, but probably even more thin than might ordinarily be the case.
Right.
So, and then the way Nintendo have approached this, where we've talked about a number of times, like they're not letting you play this in 2D. So again, as I've said, multiple times, I couldn't see myself playing, like you mentioned with golf, like that's a more long form kind of game, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Judging the distance and the wind and all that kind of stuff. I've played goodness knows how many video game golf games over the years. And one of the things I like about them is, sometimes you get like speed modes and stuff that can be fun, but generally it's like, it's chilled out. That's what's nice about it. But chilling out by sticking your face in a Virtual Boy or whatever is always a bit weird. But I mean, the point I'm making is that, the way they've done it with these games is like you wouldn't be playing them for a prolonged length of time anyway. And maybe the games, that seldom had the substance to support being played for long periods of time anyway. So that's some of the reason why they've approached it the way they have. But really what it means is the appeal of this thing, if it has any, is the stereoscopic effect. That's it. Right. And I loved it on the 3DS. I gotta say, I was probably about as enthusiastic about it there as almost anyone I can think of, there are very, very few cases where I thought, you know what, I'm switching the 3D off on this game. Most of the time I felt like it added something. I enjoyed it. The one concrete example I could think of off the top of my head, New Super Mario Bros. 2, because it was shit in that. It really was just like they didn't even, they were so quickly getting a new Super Mario Brothers game up and running on 3DS because it needed help fast, that they put no real, kind of work into, well, how could we, do some interesting things with the aesthetic in stereoscopic 3D? Absolutely not. It did not. It just made the background a little bit out of focus. I think that was about as deep as it went, as I recall. But damn near any other game you want to know, I really enjoyed the 3D effect. I liked it. And so that how well does it recreate the effect from the actual Virtual Boy, and how sort of cool or not is that in general?
I have not messed with games that I can give you a definitive statement on. So I had Galactic Pinball, but I played it very, very sparingly. When I get into Red Alarm and Wario Land and Tellero Boxer, I'll be able to give you a more one-to-one.
Red Alarm really strikes me as one where it's like, okay, the effect matters in that game, because it's like you see that in 2D video and it's just kind of a geometric mess.
It's still a nightmare. I would be clear. That game is still a nightmare. I don't
imagine, yes, it's all a million miles away from that, but at least you can pass it a lot better, right? When there is actually that depth.
I wouldn't say better. I would say you can parse it. You can versus you cannot parse it, which is the what you get if you look at it in 2D. Yeah, I mean, from what I have seen so far, to be clear, I'm still relatively early in. It does appear to work really well. Like looking at Shadow of Innsmouth has a lot of 3D in it because you're just looking down long ass hallways. It's very easy to do. And it works quite well. And it, like, the effects there, it is still cool. It is also a bad game. So, like, there's a little bit of just like, well, this isn't exactly the greatest demonstration of that thing's skill set. Except when I had Galactic Pinball up, it was still out of focus. So I hadn't quite figured that out yet. But like I had gotten it dialed in pretty close, and like, yeah, it was pretty much what I remember from having seen that thing. But again, I didn't have that one, or if I did, I didn't play it very much. I'm very interested to see how Red Alarm looks, because like that's a big one. Tellero Boxer is another big one, but I mean it seems like it's doing it. Like they figured out how to produce the thing that tricks your eyes when they run it through the big giant filter. So good on them, I guess. It is cool. It is a neat feature. It is a fun thing. It's stupid. It's so stupid. Like it's
oh, yeah. Well, it is very silly. I've got to say, this is not really a question that you can answer necessarily. But I was reading Donald's usual weekly release roundup, in which case Donald, is never afraid of firing the snark cannon while doing these release roundup things. Was basically sort of likening it to the Morbius situation, implying that Nintendo have been deceived by facetious expressions of desire for the Virtual Boy in memes and things. Is there anything to actually substantiate that? You've got to understand.
Because they sold out.
To reiterate for anybody who somehow has missed this, my head is firmly in the sand when it comes to social media, right? So
yes,
this could be happening, and God willing, I wouldn't know about it.
All right, so let's give context, because the Morbius thing was a little while ago. Sony basically co-signed Spider-Man back into Marvel's hands. So like they co-produced movies. Sony had gotten Spider-Man's license a million years ago, and Sony fucking sucks at making movies. Universally, they're fucking terrible at it. They've always been terrible at it. They will always be terrible at it.
On a completely unrelated note, I am really looking forward to that Zelda movie.
Oh yeah, it's going to be god awful. So this came out of the North Korean hack, where basically they were talking about making Spider-Man a tough mudder and posting on Instagram because it's NBD, because it's all no big deal to him. And everybody was so horrified by how fucking terrible their ideas were, it pushed them back into the hands of Marvel, which is why we got those Spider-Man movies that are actually kind of good. Because Sony didn't write them. But Sony retains the right to make Spider-Man adjacent, so like Spider-Man's parade of villains.
The Craven Hunter reason.
Craven the fucking Hunter!
If you told like 10-year-old me that one day there'd be a Craven the Hunter movie, I think it just would have been absolutely incredulous.
They have figured out how to do stuff with I can't remember the symbiotes in general, but Venom.
Oh sure, yeah, Venom, Carnage,
and the basic way they did it is just be stupid. Just let Venom just be, Eddie, I want to eat him. And just, no, you can't eat him. just go like full, like almost comedy.
If you've ever thought, oh, there's Tom Hardy, what if he was doing a voice that was somewhere between Dr. Claw and the Cookie Monster? Well, those were the movies for you.
Yeah, I mean, they do, that's basically it, yeah. And I'm sad I can kind of do it. But they continued to push the boat out. And one of the ones we got was Morbius. Morbius is a fucking vampire. who's one of Spider-Man's...
The living vampire, if I remember.
The living vampire,
the cartoon adaptation of that character.
Yeah, he's a lab-grown vampire, like a lab-grown diamond.
The thing is, I think there was quite a few things in the cartoon version when I was a kid that were, like, censored from the real version. Like, he had, like, these weird, like, suckers on his hands that drained the blood, because, like, fangs would have been too much for the kids. Back in the 90s.
That's true. And also, there's what they would have filtered for here, and then there's the second layer of filtering for what they would have had to do for UK TV.
Oh, sure,
Michelangelo can't use his fucking nunchucks.
Probably like a 5-episode arc of him using nunchucks that I never got to see, which, you know, I'm never going to get over that. It's still one of my, like, I hate the Turtles movies. I still love that they had him swinging around salami just as like a literal fuck you to one guy, to one fucking bureaucrat. They wrote that entire scene. It is a middle finger to a single human being. Anyway, Morbius is a vampire, and for whatever reason, Sony decided, that was a Jared Leto movie, right?
Yes.
I can't remember who. Yeah, why do you keep putting him in things? I don't understand.
Do you remember Carl's movie podcast?
Yes, I was on.
I like the idea of people, you know, looking for that, assuming it's about Jared Leto.
I'm trying to remember what it was. Box Office Poison. Yeah, yes.
That's the joke. Yeah, I've got a Wolf Castle there. I'm afraid.
I had to think about what the name was. I was trying to remember what the name of the show was. It's been a long time, Greg.
It's completely fair. Still out to Wolf Castle. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So they made a Morbius movie, which has no Spider-Man in it because they can't, and it's bad. But also, it bombed. Nobody knows it's bad because theoretically nobody saw it in the initial run. And
Schrodinger's Morbius.
Yeah. And the joke was that because nobody saw it, you could say anything was in it. And so people would go online and talk about their favorite scene in a movie they've never seen and just make up shit. And so one of the ones that caught fire was things like, I'm about to morb and it's Morbin time. And like, that was my favorite scene when he said it's Morbin time. And Sony, because again, they're bad at movies, saw all this, saw these people making jokes about the fact they didn't go see the movie, but that nobody else saw the movie, so they can't prove that you're lying about this scene, and said, you know what we should do? We should put it back in theaters, because people will go see it this time. People did not go see it this time. So theaters took the movie again, because Sony asked them. So theaters basically control how many screens they put up. There's some rules like, hey, you have to show X number of screens for X number of days. But basically, theaters drop Morbius as fast as their contract let them. And Sony basically asked them and got them to put it back in theaters only for it to bomb a second time, which is unheard of. It's like, what if we re-release this? Like, repertory houses are a thing, and movies can go to repertory houses and still do poorly. It's like second runs. These weren't going to second run theaters. They were going to first run theaters, and it failed again. So the idea that the Virtual Boy is Nintendo getting Morbiused into releasing this fucking thing is completely not true. Because one, Nintendo's the one who keeps mentioning the Virtual Boy. Most people don't even know it fucking existed. And number two, people talk about the Virtual Boy, but they talk about the Virtual Boy in our circles, not in the broader, like, I'm about to virtual or whatever bullshit you'd want to do to make the Morbius equivalent here. So the problem is, I gotta write that one down. That's an episode title. The thing is, they sold out.
To be fair, as of recording, I think it's still on my Nintendo store in the UK.
They have restocked it on the US one. So for a little while you couldn't get it, which means they sold out and restocked, which means it's probably doing fine, which is almost worse.
No, it's just for me. Has there been? I guess it would have had to be before if you were going to make the parallel properly.
Right.
It was back in September, right? That they announced this. It was a good while ago. So it would have to be before September 25. That there was some sort of groundswell of facetious Virtual Boy memes that somehow, elicited this. I mean, I would love to know if there's actually a reason why they did this. No. I would love to know, because I can't fucking identify it from afar.
I think they just thought it would be fun.
The only presence on social media of the Virtual Boy that I've seen is like when people shared the All Hail Virtual Boy thing from Tomodachi Life, the first one from
right,
which was their own creation.
Yeah, no, that's they memed themselves into it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think they just thought it would be fun. I think I
don't want to discount the terrible power of memes. Anytime I get close to forgetting. Anytime I get close to forgetting the awful, dreadful power of memes. I mean, there is the Morbius example, but I can also just hear Vinnie Jones saying, "I'm the Juggernaut bitch," and just,
yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, I forgot that happens.
I have to do that while like strapped into a car seat or whatever to just not immediately run off the nearest bridge.
So it is. I think legitimately Nintendo just thought, hey, we haven't ever done anything with the Virtual Boy since it released. This is relatively low risk. It's stupid. It'll get us attention. It might sell Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack subscriptions. Because remember, it is expansion pack.
I know it is. I know. I love the idea of like what they've got to have it. They've got to have a number somewhere, which is like this is the spike that we expect to grind.
I think they just thought
the fact that they would have had to model that is very ticklish. It tickles me greatly.
Oh, yeah. I think they just thought like people will buy it because it's goofy and weird, and maybe they'll upgrade to expansion pack, which will auto renew, so we'll get an extra $30 a year out of them.
It is hard to understand when nothing happened on 3DS.
Right.
It just kind of felt like...
It is a different kind of 3D, though.
It is. It is. That is true. But
yes, people have said you can emulate it, but it doesn't work as well for every game.
It did feel like it was entirely dead at that point.
Oh, so yeah. It was.
Because let's not forget, as we've already sort of touched on a little bit with the haste with which like New Super Mario Bros. 2, had to come out. And you could also look at the end of the 3DS's life cycle when the Wii U would bombed pretty, maybe not Morbius hard, but pretty fucking hard. There were multiple stretches in the 3DS's life where it's like, God, we could really use with getting anything on this.
Yeah. Oh, no, I get
right
it.
Now. And it didn't happen. It's like, well, it will never happen then, will it? And then for some bloody reason it did.
I think they just wanted to have something weird in this time slot. And they're like, what can we do weird? And somebody's like, what if we made a Virtual Boy shell? And they didn't do the correct thing, which is the image of ejecting that person and their chair out of the 6th story office building. They're just like, put them on production. I want this on my desk. Get me Virtual Boy.
I love the way that like one of the principal sort of problems of the Virtual Boy, of course, was the fact that they would require a certain amount of, there was radiation shielding, right?
Yes.
With the nature of the device. And therefore the headset thing became too bulky to actually be a headset.
Right.
So it really doesn't make much sense that you would want to reproduce that form factor on any level.
It is exactly the same shape. I've compared the two of them, but it doesn't weigh it feels like it will float away.
It wouldn't have it doesn't have components. Even probably with the Switch in it, I assume it's much lighter.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't even have like any kind of power in it. Like it's literally just a piece of plastic with 2 glass lenses. But like when you are holding it with no Switch in it, it feels like it will float away if you let it go. It is so light. So yeah, like it's a whole different ball of wax, and I can't, like, I paid $100 for it. I'm looking at cost of goods. There ain't no way. Nintendo took a nice, amount of money into their back pocket from me purchasing this completely ill-advised decision. But I I kind of appreciate it anyway. Like, I appreciate what it is. I'm having fun with it. It's very silly. It's very silly. Like, am I going to spend dozens of hours with this thing over its lifetime? No, I'm not. I already know where it's going to wind up. It's going to wind up on the shelf right next to the real one. But I don't know. Like, at the time being, I'm not upset about it. Like, I already had expansion pack because of Soul Calibur, so it was fine. But I suspect, like, even if the price is the break-even point, they only have to move a certain number of expansion pack additions to make it worth it. So I guess the calculus here is, if it gets us some attention, maybe the cost of getting attention and breaking even is fine. It's weird. It's a weird product. All right, Guillaume.
Yeah.
Business us with some new.
Yeah, so I'm still mired in 100 line, the Last Defense Academy. I'm 65 days into 100 days, so more than halfway through. But yeah, like you can. This was expected when a game's story is kind of doled out over 100 in-game days. It takes a while to get anywhere. But I'm still enjoying it, but it's very much, like that sequence of, some story stuff happens. You spend time with your classmates to develop bonds with them, to improve your math scores so that you can, whatever. Like, there are some systems that you can improve like that, and eventually what you're trying to do is to improve your moves, your weapons, to better take out enemies in the not that demanding tactical RPG segments. So yeah, actually I don't really have anything new to say here, except that progress is slow, but it's still progress. I guess a game I can talk about, and now I haven't touched it in a few weeks, so I'm just going to go over it pretty quickly. But on Game Pass, I played some Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which is the 2D new Ninja Gaiden game that came out last year. Yeah, so it's made by the Game Kitchen, who are mostly known for Blasphemous, which I haven't played, but from what I understand is a pretty combat-heavy take on the Castlevania, Metroidvania kind of genre, maybe. I did see someone at some point post their video of how bullshit the combat was on Blue Sky. So it looks like it's very demanding, maybe like a kind of a 2D Souls-born kind of inspiration thing. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, not quite like that. It's actually fairly forgiving, certainly more forgiving than the NES games. What can I even say about this? Like, it mostly plays like you would expect. You swing your sword to kill the enemies. Most of them take one hit, maybe two. Some birds attack you constantly, but they don't respawn immediately if you leave the screen and then come back. If you make the slightest bit of take the slightest backward step, like they fix that. The game is not that crappy about with its birds. But I guess the gimmick here is that first, one of the new things that you get is that if you press the jump button again, your guy will twirl with his sword out. So, kind of a spin attack, but doesn't gain a second jump. You do get an upward lift if you do connect with an enemy, though. So it's not quite like in a Mario game where you can just bop 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 on several enemies, but it is kind of like that. You can't just hold down the B button to do it. You got to do it at every time, and also there's because you're spinning and your sword has that attack area is all around your character. You can also attack an enemy from below and still kind of get that upward lift, like that second jump. If you you don't have to jump on top of the enemy. So that's kind of cool, but sometimes it does mean that you can sometimes what happened to me was that I would misread the platforming that was demanded of me, and I would miss, and I wasn't sure why, and sometimes that's because I just wasn't hitting the enemy right, and so I didn't get the lift while I was at the proper height, like maybe I was next to the enemy. I needed to be on top of the enemy if I wanted to make it to the platform that the enemy was in front of, I'm not super crazy about the game. Like, it's perfectly fine, I suppose, but there's been way too many times when I felt like the problem was the controls and not me. And I've been trying, I've been diligent trying to, I got to make sure that my soundbar is not adding any lag, turn off the smart sound or whatever, that kind of, and add some lag. Make sure to have the game mode on the TV, so again, like, there's no lag introduced there. But yeah, too many times I felt like, I missed. Like, I'm supposed to like parry to block this attack. I missed. I could swear I pressed the button in time, but apparently I didn't. And that hasn't felt good. And when I compare that to the other 2D ninja game that came out last year, Shinobi, which I fucking loved. Well, that's, it's hard not to make the comparison, like, right. One of these really worked for me, and this one is fine, but it's not the one that I would recommend outright,
Yeah, I've been interested in this one, but I bought Shinobi in anticipation of, enjoying it quite a lot, and I've still actually not played it. So I was definitely, my profligacy, undeniable, but has some limits in that I'm not going to buy another Ninja Revival game. Well, possibly, we don't know, but possibly better one I already have and I've not played it yet.
Right. Well, I would certainly hold off. Like, I wouldn't try to play both at the same time, because what I do, I didn't do this, but I remember listening to Player One podcast, and they were playing, I think, the demos for Shinobi and Ragebound at the same time.
They were really close together, weren't they?
Yeah. And they were just like, and like the jumping and the mechanics, they're completely different. And so, like, you try to go from one to the other, and there's like every time this period of like, I got to relearn what I'm doing here, because my muscle memory right now is stuck on Shinobi, and this game is not Shinobi.
As someone who lived through a fateful Christmas of having Metroid Prime and Time Splitters 2 at the same time, I can relate, and would try and avoid such pitfalls occurring again.
Yeah. And yeah, other than that, like, it's a 2D Ninja Gaiden game. I welcome that, but it does come with certain expectations, maybe, that the developer tried to fill, but that's not quite doing it for me. Like, there's probably too much story in this. Like, the game opens, it's very cool. It opens with a nightmare sequence or a dream sequence, where, like, it's basically like the opening scene of the first Ninja Gaiden, which is iconic, like, it made a lot of kids' jaws drop back in the day. But so that's cool. But then, like, the rest of the cutscenes in this game are just a bunch of things that I don't care about. They're slightly too long. They don't have this, like, they probably say too much. They're too long. The story is too nothing to really be. And also, we're in 2026. We're not in, the early 90s anymore. So, like, a 2D cutscene doesn't really impress in the same way anymore. And I guess that's about it. I can say that's about all I have to say about Ragebound. Other than that, unfortunately I've only played like little bits of things here and there. I played through The Punisher, the arcade game. That's the beat 'em up that's included in the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Karen and I played through it very quickly. It is very silly. When you're playing two players, the first person is, the Punisher. The second player plays as, why is his name escaping me? Samuel L. Jackson in the Avengers.
Is it Nick Fury?
It's Nick Fury, yeah.
I remember it being pretty random. It's like those things. They seem like very different, like levels of the Marvel, kind of. It's Punished as like gritty, down to earth, like he's dealing with street gangs.
Right.
And then, like, Nick
Fury's dealing with dimensional aliens.
He's like in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So it's just like the highest high-level threats you could imagine. Like, what a choice.
Yeah. I don't really know the cartoon Nick Fury all that well, so I don't really know. But, and of course, like, this is before, Ultimate Avengers, before an enterprising artist decided, like, you know what, I'm going to wish cast Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and then made it happen, basically. So in this game, Nick Fury is white, looks nothing like Samuel L. Jackson. It's kind of like this awkward banter between the Punisher and Nick Fury in between stages. Mostly you punch dudes, but there are scenes like only when the enemies are armed with, firearms, can you shoot at them? And it's pretty automatic. Like, at that point, you just want to mash the attack button because your character is going to automatically aim at and shoot down the enemies, whoever might show up with a gun. And even if, like, some people without guns are in the mix, you still can shoot them, apparently. So every bad guy is fair game, armed or not, as long as there is the presence of one armed bad guy. So, it's a little bit weird. And I need to spend more time with Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Unfortunately, the Gamepad Pro 2, whatever it's called, the
Pro Controller for Switch 2.
The Pro Controller, thank you. Not very good D-pad, not very good for fighting games so far. And so I'm trying to pull off some cool moves as, Wolverine or Spider-Man in the fighting games. But more often than not, like, it doesn't really register quite correctly. And beyond that, also, like, these games are very fucking fast. They're so fast. They're very fast fighting games. So I'm not used to that either, and I'm having a little bit of a kind of a buyer's remorse because I can't pull off the moves that I want to pull off, and also I suck at this. So
the thing is, I guess it's like at the time it kind of happens gradually. Like Street Fighter 2 got faster and faster in the different iterations, and that the Capcom fighting games in general kind of picked up speed. But just kind of going back to it, out of context, is quite like, I mean, I've got this. I can't play fighting games for toffee, especially at this point. But you could just gawk at the sprite work. It's just so nice.
It is.
So
definitely.
You just kind of run through. I've run through arcade modes on a lot of those, and just to see like the bosses and all that kind of stuff. And it's just extraordinarily gorgeous stuff. It's always appreciate that more now than I did then. Like, I remember seeing stuff like Children of the Atom, the X-Men game, and some of the others in the arcades when they came out, and they were impressive then. But the difference was, like, it's just everything was sprites for the most part, right? You had, early polygonal games, but now there's something about going back to the old sprite games of just, oh god, the things they could actually do, especially Capcom at the top of the game with the custom hardware for it and everything. It's just this is gorgeous. So that's the way in which it functions for me. I mean, I get the other thing I think I'd like but it's not worth it because I'm rubbish at them anyway. It's like a proper 6-button layout controller, because these are 6-button games, and I was never that one. It got all the way back to Street Fighter 2 on the Super Famicom, L&R for two of the, for like what the one being a kick and the one being a punch to go with the face buttons. Oh, you obviously you could wrap your head around it, you get used to it and stuff, but it never felt entirely right, because it isn't. And eventually, there would be games which collapsed it down a little bit, like Tatsunoko versus Capcom was like a 4-button game, and I think maybe Marvel versus Capcom 3 sort of picked up where that left off in that regard.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, but these were, 6-button games for the most part, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little bit, it's all made a little bit confusing because I'm learning the controls and the motions or whatever, the special moves that you're supposed to do, and I haven't mastered quite yet, like because the default button assignment is like, of course, like I know where to find the low high punch and the low high kick, like it's the face buttons, or at least probably maybe a medium in there. But also, like, usually these games have a special move where you have to press like the 3 punch buttons at the same time, or the 3 kick buttons at the same time, and I think there's some other combination as well, and those are not always mapped to the shoulder buttons the way that you would think. Like I forget what it is, but like I was surprised. I think at some point that R and ZR were both like kicks or something. To me, it felt weird, but at this point I kind of forget. I might talk about this more if I ever decide to sit down and spend some time actually learning these games, and I guess I'll report back, say if I'm not as rubbish at them anymore. And I think that will do for my new business right now. I have played little bits of other stuff, but not nearly enough to actually talk about it.
Okay. We were going to do listener mail, but we kind of went an hour already, so we'll have
40 minutes of Virtual Boy. That's why you listen to our
FM. However many minutes of Virtual Boy and however many minutes of Morbius. That's
true.
That's on me.
I would say at least 5 of Morbius.
That's why you listen to our FM.
I mean, I mean, you say that as a joke, but to be honest, like, it's not like this is us. Like, you have decades of warning now about what this show is. Like, it's on you at this point. We are absolved at this point. Not for the original sins. We still carry those around. We still ate the fruit of the tree, but all future sins are on you. Like, that's we are sufficient. We have reached maximum saturation point vis-a-vis taintedness. So at this point, it's on you to continue to consume. But there is one that we have that deals specifically with basically the question is what's going on with Pokemon trading card game, and there's a lot going on with Pokemon trading card game. But there was some news that came out literally today that the Pokemon Company, not Nintendo, not Game Freak, not Creatures, the entity that they collectively own, specifically the Pokemon Company International, a division of that company, acquired Excel Brands, which is a distributor of, amongst other things, trading cards and collectibles. They are not the printers of trading cards because the Pokemon Company International bought them, Millennium Print Group, 3 years ago, 2022. So if the question of what's going on with Pokemon cards, the answer is the Pokemon Company is also pissed off about what's going on with Pokemon cards and has decided to in-house the entire fucking operation. So we'll do that email in more detail, but the short answer is supply is outstripped by demand. We're in a nostalgia cycle for Pokemon right now, and there's also a lot of not hustling. Scalping because we're in this place economically where people are trying to make money easy or trying to hustle for money, and Pokemon cards have proven to be a very valuable commodity with respect to scalping, and major retailers really aren't happy about what they're having to do to prevent this from being a thing. They're not so much concerned about the scalping part. They're concerned about the fact that their staff is basically imperiled by the arrival of Pokemon cards. And in some cases of some Costco's, literally imperiled to the point where they held back their supply from going to the warehouse, to the stores, until they knew it could be done safely. So, it's basically these cards are worth more while they're still in their package than they are when they're out of the package on average. And there is a sort of collective inability to meet the demand curve that is currently spiking up for nostalgia purposes, and also because scalpers have caught on to the meme that you can resell Pokemon card packs for above MSRP and are doing it. So they're driving the price of retail up because they're also trying to essentially create an accidental, but in their case, beneficial scarcity in the marketplace. That is what is going on with the book. But we'll answer that one in more detail because there's more to it than that. We could talk about why it's in a nostalgia cycle right now, why it's still up, what the Pokemon company has done, specifically Pokemon Card, it's called Pokemon Card Studio, has done that has caused these things to be in demand at this moment in time. There's a lot going on there, but we don't have time to get into too much detail, but I did want to point out the news that the Pokemon Company has acquired the other part of their card business partners, Excel brand. So now they own the distributor and the printer. So hopefully having some centralized leadership will allow things to flow a little bit better. They are going to continue. Vertical
integration, evidently, is what they deem to be the solution to these issues.
So they have these companies have other clients, and at least for now, the Pokemon Company intends to let them continue to have other clients. But if they're the owners, they certainly get first dibs on printing resources and shipping resources and infrastructure and warehousing. After they bought Millennium Print Group, they're quite serious about this. They acquired a massive warehouse, like a warehouse so big that people who cover the industry thought there is no way they are planning on turning that into a factory. It is too big. At which point they proceeded to turn it into a factory. It was not too big. So they are clearly actively trying to increase their ability to both, manage the logistics of getting these cards into retailers' hands, and also making sure that they have enough availability to maybe not meet the demand, but at least meet the demand to enough of a degree that it does not turn into the Lord of the Flies to try to get a single pack of Pokemon booster cards. So they're making an effort. Will it pay off? I don't know, but they are making an effort. But this also always happens. I mean, there's a certain amount of Beanie Baby-ness here as well. People are like, Pokemon cards are worth a ton of money. I should get into Pokemon cards.
I feel like early season Sopranos makes references to their, like, how can they monetize?
Yes.
the Pokemon craze, and possibly referring to it as Pokemans or something. But I mean,
absolutely
that show's
believe
been dead for 20 years. I mean, it's like, and that was the early season thing.
I believe it. It totally makes sense. All right. Well, we're gonna take it. Send it home here. There we go. So, Greg, I need some music.
Sure. Well, tomorrow, based on where I'm recording, in the time zone sense, and well, even for you, James, and Keelman, in a few minutes, it'll be the 20th. But on the 21st, it's the 40th anniversary of the release of the original Legend of Zelda, or was it the Hyrule Fantasy?
Wow.
I think it was kind of the sort of additional kind of part of the title for the original Famicom Disk System release. So yeah, 40 years. I don't know that we necessarily get that much of anything from Nintendo on this, because obviously it was quite a lot later that it debuted anywhere else in the world, right? It was 87 probably by the time I think that it got outside of Japan. But it's a pretty big deal all the same. It's a very landmark game. Obviously, in general, it was, showing Nintendo, pushing even further beyond the kind of arcade-derived nature of a lot of the games that have been on the Famicom to that point. Obviously, Super Mario Brothers kind of pushed beyond those boundaries in its own way to a degree, but then, Zelda goes, a lot further, and of course that kind of really was the point, right? It's trying to advertise this new refresh of the Famicom with the disc system of like, you can save your game, and we
can make big games now with progress.
It's more capacious. It saves your progress. So we've got this persistent world and this open structure and adventure and exploration and all that.
Passwords, fuck passwords.
No, exactly. And of course it was so important to it that whereas with its sort of Famicom disk system cousins, Kid Icarus and Metroid, those were password packs in North America where they, made up for the lack of a save feature just with passwords. Zelda had to have the battery backup and actually have a save feature in an NES cartridge. So again, when it did come elsewhere, it was kind of pushing the boundaries further about what, an NES game could be. So, huge deal. And of course, it's got this huge musical heritage and everything. It's scary actually to think about the fact that, I was at one of the first performances of I think it was just, they didn't call it Symphony of the Goddesses yet. That came later. It was just the 25th anniversary Zelda orchestra, which means it was 15 years ago.
Yeah, I remember sitting in a press conference about the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, that was at the end of 2011 to coincide with Skyward Sword coming out, whereas, this is, at the beginning of the year, but still, it's 14 years ago. It's still kind of, frightening to contemplate, I guess. But, it's spoiled for choice in a lot of ways, but what I'm going to go for is something from a lot earlier, but, kind of, not strictly limited to that original kind of game in where it's drawing from, but, certainly just the early days because, much of the series hadn't happened yet. So this is from, an album that came out to coincide with Ocarina of Time. In Japan, called Hyrule Symphony, and of course most of it is kind of taking a symphonic approach to the Ocarina of Time soundtrack. But there's the one track which I believe was the closing one on the album. I heard this album through one of the Zelda fan sites that was kind of big round about that time. It might have been Hyrule, the Land of Zelda, but that might also be because that's the only one I can remember the address of at this point, because, we're going back such a long time to the late 90s. They had that, like, rips of this album up back then. That's how I heard it. And, basically this last, track from the album, I believe, is a medley of all the games that came before Ocarina of Time. So it's like a little encapsulation of like the first decade or so of the series. So we go from the original Zelda, and obviously the overworld theme from the original Zelda is eternal, right? We will keep hearing that people other than me will keep hearing it long after I'm dead, I assume. But a lot of there are other motifs in it, but a lot of them have not actually come back like that often, like the dungeon theme or, the ending theme or things like that. But, obviously not that many of those. So it kind of quickly progresses from Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Link to the Past, and finishes with, Link's Awakening. So it's not the bombast of the 25th anniversary concerts and the Symphony of the Goddesses and so forth. It's not a huge orchestra like that. It's kind of got a little bit more of a low-key kind of intimate kind of feel to it, but, it's nice how it weaves through some of those, different kind of, motifs from the individual games while being sort of essentially anchored by different versions of the classic overworld theme. So yeah, kind of crazy to think that it's been around for 40 years, but and I assume we'll get stuff, to commemorate this at various in the build up to that film from Sony Pictures next year.
Oh God!
But yeah, I'm not sure we'll get anything this weekend. I guess people by the time they hear this will know, but I hope they recognise it somehow because it's a major landmark.
Can't wait for Link to go. It's Moblin time.
And on that, it's time to end the show. No, don't say it's Goblin time. That's. If John was here, he'd be giggling. Don't give him that.
Bokoblin. Come on.
Yes. It's very different. It's that's how they really watched it, is when they actually say it's Bokoblin.
I hate that I'm writing that down. Oh, God. All right, well, on that horrible realization, it's time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.